Honey, I shrunk. Honey, I shrunk. Honey, I shrunk. Nothing but static.
Once
Hey,
again,
peeps.
just loving the snowflake-like elements of just, it's slightly different every time. The vague tunes there, love it. It's good.
I think
More TV shows should
like
do
I say, I think it may. I think it reflects the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise. The vague notions are there, but it's always executed a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Sometimes with success, sometimes without.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it is nuts. I did not notice that there were themes running through this series until we did this.
oh, 100%. Well, I mean, should we, with this one, can I just start straight away by saying it was really bold of them to keep this one so short? I mean, ending the film at 33 minutes in, when they obviously all died falling down that laundry chute. I mean, I turned it off at that point. I didn't see if I didn't stick around for the credits because it was very bold for such a dark ending. Do you not think that's really dark as a way to end? Because they definitely died. I mean, that's the end of the movie, obviously. I mean, I didn't even bother seeing what came next. I paused it at that point and switched it off. But, I mean, really, really bold, especially after such a fun scene as they're whizzing about on the Hot Wheels, and then it's just like death and it goes black and I'm like, wow. And I just turned it off. It's great. What a shocking twist.
I did legitimately think, even though they've landed on washing, that washing would actually be quite hard comparative to their size.
I mean, people who were falling off the Golden Gate Bridge during its construction were dying, because even though it's water, you fall from a certain height. It doesn't matter how soft the thing you're landing on. The impact will kill you,
Yeah. And they fell from a height.
Quite a height. Multiple stories. It would have been the equivalent to falling off a, 20-story building, but from the scaling that I saw. They'd be dead. So, yeah, what a bold choice to end the movie there, Chris. What do you think?
I think that's a testament to the movie, because there's more than any of the others. There's the bubble scene where I'm like, really? Is the physics really working there?
Nope. Nope, they are not.
They'd
be dead. The falling into the onion dressing or whatever it was. What do they call? What's the dressing? They name it.
It's dip.
It's like onion
dip.
Ranch dressing or something like that.
It's dip, isn't it?
Dead.
It's like onion dip.
Onion dip. They'd be dead. Dead. Very, very dead.
Yeah, because they make a little bit of movement on that big box of pills, so they've got some weight to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna be able to ride a bubble. But alas, Dad, Jesus, alas, Dan, we've gotten ahead of ourselves.
I mean, yeah, 100%. But we've got ahead of ourselves because I had a bit planned that I was sticking to no matter what happened.
No, I agree. I know, but I took it as a genuine critique of the film.
It is. No, it is. And it's what's embarrassing, Chris, and I think what's more frustrating about this series is I was thinking back over the last few episodes we've done, and I've had fun. I really have. It's been fun to watch these old things and talk about them and bullshit about my friend. It's been nice, right? I've enjoyed myself. But a little part of me dies inside when I go, oh, we pitched this like an insane romp of two idiots just rambling about, and we've genuinely taken these movies far too seriously. I get a little pang in my stomach every time I think about the fact that we've genuinely analysed, we spent so much of the Blow Up the Kid conversation talking about the character arcs and lack thereof them. What are we doing? We are grown men, Chris. This is not how we should be spending our days.
But I did have a moment the other day where, because there's 3 floors where I work, and I work on the top floor. And
all right, fancy pants. You get the biggest office too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like an American setup.
With a stunning corner office with a view of Newbury.
that doesn't. It's not an American style. That doesn't mean anything. We're all equal. But anyway, and
that's exactly what somebody who's right at the top would say. We're all equal here, guys. I mean, I get paid better than you. I've got a better parking space, and I don't have to do as much work. But we're all equal. We're all equal. Oh, and also I can tell you what to do at all times. But we're all equal. It's good.
My colleagues on my floor, some of them knew about this.
The people on your floor who you consider equal to you because they're on your floor.
But then during a company-wide sort of chill-out thing, we were talking, and one of them went, "Oh, how'd you get on with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids last night?" And I just felt so embarrassed because everyone else went, "What?" And I went, "Oh, I'm rewatching the entire Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise for the podcast." And they were like, "Why?" And I went, it became a bit of an in-joke. And then the listeners sort of said that they really wanted it. And this guy at work was like, "What, like 2 people request something and you immediately do it?" Touché. Thought it was quite a good gag.
It's a great gag. Not wrong either.
Hello, listeners. So,
to quote Homer Simpson, it's funny because it's true.
It was very like, oh god, what are we doing? But I've loved it, and it's been, and honestly, the people that are listening to this would have known and expected us to take it this seriously. So I'm fine with it.
Chris, I just spent 5 minutes complaining about that they'd be definitely dead.
But they would.
I mean, they would. They would.
I genuinely think this film has more instances of that than the first.
Oh, by miles. But also, some of the weirdest choices. I can't. There's one thing in particular I cannot wait to talk about because it was one of the strangest things. Actually, no, there are two. There are 2 moments in this film that feel like someone else wrote them and didn't understand or hadn't read the rest of the script.
Okay, right, I can't wait. Right, so, very short summary.
Oh. Chris, my biscuit just snapped off in my cup of tea.
Oh, shit. Oh, no.
I dipped a biscuit in my tea.
Yeah, is it rich tea biscuit?
It was a malted milk.
Oh, okay.
Slightly more adventurous this week.
Your biscuit taste is just perfectly in line with a 70-year-old man, mate.
Can I just say that, no, I love a good chocolate digestive, I love a cookie, I love a Jaffa cake, but I'm currently dieting, so I'm going for slightly less chocolatey, less fatty biscuits. So leave me alone, give me a break. Try and lose some weight, you motherfucker. Yeah. But
hey, took a leaf out of your book yesterday. I've suggested that we do one night a week where we don't eat meat.
Yeah.
And we had pumpkin and butternut squash burgers.
That's good.
They weren't great, but they were very much textured like actual burgers. I was quite surprised by how in keeping the actual texture of them was.
Oh, that's good.
So there you go.
We actually dropped that a little bit about a month or so ago. We need to get back on that. Meat free Monday.
It's not a good. It's not. I couldn't do it on a Monday. I could not do it on a Monday.
Personally. Well, we call it that, but we call it that whatever day we're doing it. So if we're doing it on a Saturday, it's meat free Monday. It's just because the alliteration.
Like I could never. The other week, Jess, and she's got multiple stick for this. She accidentally brought Beet Wellington instead of Beef Wellington, which was a beetroot beef Wellington.
Sure.
So it was like a vegan beef Wellington, and looked awful. We've still not eaten it. And she was like, "Oh well, we can still have it. We'll just have it on Sunday." And I was like, "No. I'm not eating Beet Wellington on a Sunday. Like Sunday's a day for a roast or something decent."
You know what? I've not. I don't know if we talked about this, but have you tried the Iceland the No Bull burgers?
I've not. No.
They're meat-free burgers. Truthfully, they're wizardry. They're about as close as I've gotten to real. Because I think the problem often, and this is not what this podcast is about, but very quickly, fuck it. If we're doing this, is insane anyway. We might as well just talk about fucking burgers for a minute. But these No Bull burgers, they're meat-free burgers. And the problem I've found with all the other meat substitutes is just the texture. You can kind of make it taste a bit like meat if you use the right oils or whatever. The texture is the big one. It gives it away. The second you're chewing it, you're like, this ain't meat. It's tofu or soy or whatever. The No Bull burgers from Iceland are about the closest I've come.
I'll check them out.
And when you cook them, they cook like real burgers. Like they release juices the way real burgers do. They brown the same way that real burgers do. They are as close as I've ever seen, and it's kind of amazing. There's no meat in them. I sort of ate.
Are we sure there's definitely no meat in them?
Yeah. They're called No Bull burgers. They are meat free.
Well, I mean, beef lasagna was the name of a lot of products that were found to then have shitloads of horse meat in. So.
Well, yeah, that's fair. But no, it's a plant-based burger with none of the bull meat. Yeah, okay. Goes their slogan.
But I think part of the problem is, and like Jess summed it up well. She was like, "I'm happy to eat meat free, but I'd rather eat meals that just don't have meat in them, as opposed to meals where meat has been substituted."
That's fair, 100%. To be honest with you, that's what we did for most of the times we've done it. Like that's, we just made that the day we haven't had, we've had a meal that you just wouldn't put meat in anyway.
Yeah, we do a mean red pepper pasta, which is like just a really nice sauce made of peppers and red peppers and stuff. So anyway, Wayne Szalinski, who is now president of Szalinski Inventions, Szalinski Industries.
Yeah,
It's his own
Zelensky
company.
Inc. or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he
Some
and
made-up
his
company.
he and his brother are looking after the kids for the weekend because his brother's wife and his wife Diane is going away. Diane, because she very much is feeling like she's got marital problems. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to Himonian and company. Anyway, basically, the wives go off. There's some confusion. Wayne is trying to shrink a tiki statue that Diane is insisting he gets rid of. And in the process of that...
Sorry to interrupt, but it's called Zelensky Labs. I just looked it up.
Cool, thank you. In the process of doing that, they accidentally shrink themselves, basically. Wayne shrinks himself and the brother, and then Diane and Patty, I think it is, come in and accidentally get shrunk too. The kids, through actually some genuinely quite decent writing, then are led to believe that they've all gone away and they've got the house to themselves. So they decide
There was a lot of coincidence there, though.
Yeah, but it was fine. Like, in the realm of this type of movie.
Yeah, silly kids movie, you get away with it. But, like, in the first movie, the biggest coincidence was the baseball happening to turn on the device in the first place. In this, you have to stretch a lot more, because you have to believe this coincidence happened, and this coincidence happened, and then the car backed into the other driveway. Like, there are so many coincidences that happen here to lead them to this situation.
That's very true. So the parents have to make their way downstairs amidst the usual kind of chaos, the falling, the Hot Wheels, the grotesque the bug trap, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And then eventually they end up downstairs whilst the party has been interrupted by some boys. Horrible boys, I must say.
Teenage boys.
They are shits. And to be fair, I don't like the decision to make the friends kind of be on the boys' side.
Yeah, I've got that in my notes.
Not the girls' side.
We'll come to that.
So the parents witness the party. They witness the daughter. So basically it's Adam, the kids. By the kids, we mean Patty and Rick's brother's kids. So Rick and Diane's niece and nephew. Pete? I don't know. The kids. What are the kids' names? I don't know.
Diane? I can get them. I don't know off the top of my head.
No, Diane is the wife.
Oh, yeah, anyway, Diane is... Yeah, Diane... Sorry, I thought you were the kids' names.
No, I do want the kids' names. Yeah. But, well, whatever.
So it's
what are the kids?
Wayne, Diane, Adam, Patty, Gordon, Jenny, Mitch, and Ricky are the names of the various characters. And then there's a few other kids that show up, like the little shit ones.
So it's Mitch and Jenny, isn't it? So Mitch has a potassium deficiency.
Yep.
And they have to deal with that. They have to deal with the boys, and then eventually the parents are able to somehow hot wire a speaker so that he yells into the speaker and their voice is heard, and they give instructions to the kids and they unshrink them basically. Oh man, where to begin, Dan? Well, what are your big? Go on, give me one of your big gripes.
Oh Jesus. Well, are we talking overall? Or are we talking to the two specific moments that I have issues with?
No, give me overall first. Okay. Where does this sit for you? Because and we haven't done this, so going into this, we did a bit of this last week, with me talking about the VHS and stuff. I remember enjoying this film a lot as a kid. I watched it. We actually, bizarrely, and it does feel bizarre because there's been through just natural reasons quite a bit of gap, or at least like a week gaps between recording sessions for these. Mm-hmm. But we recorded this one only a couple of days after the ride, so I didn't have time. We had to watch it on a weeknight evening, so I didn't have time to connect a VHS player.
That's a shame. That is a shame. That was going to be one of my questions, but I had a feeling we were recording so soon after the last one that you'd have no time to sort it out.
Yeah. So, but I remember having that VHS as discussed on last week's podcast and really enjoying this movie. And actually my memory is enjoying it more than Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, which it's not a better film, but did I enjoy it more? Possibly. I don't know,
Elements of this film work better than elements of Blew Up.
Yes.
But is Blew Up is Blew Up a better made film? Yes. Is this maybe the better script? Yes. But with some very serious caveats, which we'll get to.
Yeah. There were more noticeable There's some character stuff that just stands out as there's some dialogue. This film has arguably the worst dialogue of the bunch.
By a mile.
Rick Moranis was still giving it all.
Even when the script direction
awful.
basically said pratfall.
Yeah, like, I thought he was still great. And actually, some of the choices, opening with a bit of nostalgia and opening with a mailbox as well, again, and actually making him president of a company, and but he's bumbling and still a bit of a bit like awkward, so not really succeeding.
Yeah, well, it's the running theme, isn't it? Of like that he's a good inventor with no people skills. Like that they absolutely stay true to that character in this movie by doing that. 100%.
And they take it to the logical conclusion. You can't do another movie like the last one where he's not being really trusted because he's proved he's a good inventor. So actually what they do with his character is really consistent and, like you say, really true to it. And even the fact that the shrink ray exists, they know it exists, but it's going to be in the Smithsonian because it's too dangerous to use.
Yeah, that's one of the smartest lines in the whole film is when they explain that basically he's been banned by the government after the incident in Vegas from ever using the shrink ray again. Like,
you'd argue that the government wouldn't let him keep it in the loft, but
I mean, we're getting into see. I'm going to try to draw a line on this episode from when we're nitpicking stuff that genuinely doesn't work, and when we're nitpicking stuff that you can kind of get away with in a kids movie. That you can get away with in a kids movie, I think. If you disagree with me, hold your hand up and say. But for me, you're right. In reality, you'd absolutely you'd take it off him. But it's enough, I think, in a kid's movie to just say he's not allowed to use it because when you're a kid, your little imagination, you don't think about the practicalities of how you would enforce that. You just go, well, he's not allowed. The government have told him he wouldn't do that, would he? Because he's the government have said so. Like you wouldn't in our reality, you go, well, you couldn't just tell someone not to use a gun they own. They might use it. Like you'd have to take it off them. Like. Yeah, I hope you're listening, America. Yeah.
No one's listening, Dan.
No. That's the problem. 4 of these in. So I'm going to try my best not to ever nitpick something that's kind of like, you get away with it in a kid's film. So, for example, hot wiring the speaker so you can talk into it and it makes your voice loud. Pretty sure. Not reasonably sure that's not really a thing you can do, or if it is, it's a lot more complicated than getting a bit of gum wrapper and putting it in there. But kids movie, fine. We tick that one as passable and we move on. The stuff that I'm gonna pull the movie up for are the stuff that I think is kind of more egregious that even a kid would go, I'm not so sure that's the thing.
Yeah, and there's some character stuff we'll get to as well. Yeah. But on the whole, it was equal to Blow Up the Kid for me. I don't know whether that's nostalgia. Again, there was some really good stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I thought they handled Nick and Amy's absence really well. Where do you sit on it overall?
I think I sit close to where you are. I think it's what I said. It's like it does some things better than Blew Up and some things worse than Blew Up. So I think it ends up, if you were scoring it would be pretty close. It's shorter, which is merciful. An hour and 10 minutes, beautiful. Mwah. But like, okay. The biggest problems are like the script had some really nice ideas, and they actually take the time to go into them, and it feels a lot more like the first movie in that sense. Everyone has a character arc, everyone is going through something, and there is a sense of resolution to that at the end. No matter how badly they wrap it all up, or how quickly and cheaply they wrap it all up, we've got the whole thing with Adam wanting to go to baseball camp because he's not like his brother Nick. He just wants to do, he likes sports or whatever, and it's like okay, and we once again got marital problems between Wayne and Diane. Actually probably handled better than in the first movie because it's actually
still not handled great, but
it's not handled great, but it's handled. And then there's obviously an extra plot between him and Gordon. Is it Gordon?
Gordy, I think.
Is his brother?
Yeah, I think he called him Gordy, didn't he? Or was it Gordon?
Unless he nicknamed him Gordy. He's on the credits here as Gordon, I've got.
Okay, let's go with Gordon. But yeah, his plot about how he's actually better to run the company.
Really good.
Wayne,
my favourite plot of the entire movie, and we'll talk about this in more detail later because I think it was incredibly ahead of its time, is Jenny's plot with the boy.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Just really clever. But even like the other kid,
Where he's got his potassium deficiency,
and then of course,
even Pat,
and on top of the baseball stuff, we've got Adam's actually got this crush on Mila Kunis, which, you know, maybe not at that age, but who hasn't at some point in their life had a crush on Mila Kunis? I think that's fair to say. I remember being 16 and watching, about 15 and watching that 70s show and absolutely having a crush on Mila Kunis.
She was your Amy, as they say.
Yeah, no, not at this point, but it's certainly further down the road. For sure.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's accusing you of that. Even Patty learns to trust the kids and be less paranoid.
Yes, absolutely. And I think if we talk about what we loved most about that first movie, we talked about how everyone had a plot and they all played out, and the circumstances naturally led to resolutions of those. And I think there's an element of that in this movie, which is why I think if I was choosing over the two, which one I'd want to watch again, I may pick this one over Blew Up, because I think I at least get a little bit more of something out of this personally. But I don't think that's objective. I think that's completely subjective. I think that's because that's what I value more when I watch a movie. I find it easier to invest in the events of a movie when I care about the characters and the outcomes. And I think this has that. So that appeals to my personal sense of taste more. But it's got a bunch of really serious drawbacks that the other one doesn't. I mean, budgetary for a start, like, dear Lord. I mean,
it's also, for me, I'm always about plot, and I think it's got more beats than Blew Up as well. I think my problem, even as a kid with Blew Up, was essentially Adam gets bigger, and that's all that really happens. The period of the movie where he's halfway between a little bit big and massive, and he's just being chased around the house. You know, we talked about it on that episode, but this at least has Hot Wells and Fall In and Dip, and like there's way more.
This feels more like an adventure.
Iconic. Yeah, they're not iconic in the way of the bug, the cookie, etc. But there is more moments in this one.
And on a really serious note, Chris, I've absolutely ruined this cup of tea. Because I couldn't get a spoon to fish out the malted milk, it's just sort of merged with the cup of tea, and it's just horrible. It's a cup of tea with bits in it now.
Oh mate, I've demolished my cup of warm water because I just felt so guilty. I don't think it was a Honey I Shrunk, but there was a podcast recently where I'm pretty sure most of the audio is going to be me drinking ice. So I stayed away from ice this. Well, it wouldn't be recently now; it'd be a few weeks ago, or it would have been. It was an episode of this. So yeah, I'm also parched, Dan. So
I'm still trucking through. It's grim, but I'm drinking it because I ain't wasting tea. But yeah.
Yeah. Go on then. Give me your gripes.
Oh well, okay. We'll go through it a bit more in like sort of. We'll go through the film as we've done with the other ones, sort of like beat by beat in a minute. But like the two things that really bothered me, number one, the cockroach scene. The cockroach shows up, and my first honest thought is, well, ladies and gentlemen, the reason they used a practical ant in the first one. That's thought number one. But that's fine. I'm on board with the CGI roach. It's cheaper. Fine, cool. They go into the roach trap. Clever. On board. Bit gross. But very Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, on board.
It's grim. It's very grim. It's grimmer than anything else in this franchise.
Yep. Really grim. But I'm on board. I like it. I think it's a really cool idea for a scene. The budget kind of hampers it slightly, but I'm going to use my imagination and maybe I'll jazz it up in my head. Does that make sense? Great. There's a moment where it nearly gets Diane, and Wayne has to save her. On board. What a cool idea. Nice. Really great. Wayne saving Diane. Lovely. Then they all get out of what was a traumatic experience where this cockroach nearly ate Diane. And then they all just start laughing. But not just like, oh, we got out of that one. Like, full-on belly laughing. Like, someone had just farted, and it was the funniest thing they'd ever all heard. And I'm just like, that's a weird tonal shift. And then it cuts.
Is that a shock thing, though? Is that a reaction to the shock of it all thing?
Not how they play it in the movie. It's full on, like, it's not nervous laughter, it's belly laughter. Like, oh, what a great adventure we're on. It's insane. It's so tonally out of place. So much so that when I searched the film on YouTube to see if there are any, like, I was trying to see if anyone had made any, like, little documentaries on about the making of the film or anything to get a bit more truth, because there's almost no truth for this one, I'm afraid. There's a few bits, but nothing crazy. So I was just looking, and all I could find were clips of that moment, because I guess it stood out for a lot of people. And what's even weirder, though, is that the very next scene that's with those characters is Wayne and Diane having this heart-to-heart moment about how she nearly just died. Which is somewhat hampered by the fact...
some of the hammiest dialogue you've ever heard
100%,
but yeah.
But it works for the plot. It's yes, the dialogue it definitely needs a lot of smoothing over it. It's about, this whole movie is about as subtle as a kick to the nuts. Like it's all on the nose. Nothing about this movie is subtle. And this is okay. This movie, here's a perfect analogy. Actually, when I write scripts, I do this thing called the vomit draft. And the premise of the vomit draft, which I stole the premise off Judd Apatow, is that you just get the idea onto the page where all the characters say exactly what they mean. There's no subtlety to it, but you've got the whole concept out quickly onto the page, and then you go through and you make it subtle. So you write a scene and the character goes, "I'm angry," and then when you go back and rewrite it, you jazz it up and you smooth it out and you make the character throw something at a wall to indicate anger or whatever. Something a bit more human and a bit more subtle than this weird robotic saying what you think. This is like they made the vomit draft. That's what this movie is like. But my point with the cockroach thing is that regardless of how hammy that scene is, the flow of that does not work with that middle laughter bit. I know what the middle laughter bit is trying to do. It's trying to go, oh, isn't this such a fun adventure for the adults? Look at them, they're running away from... It's like the kids in the first movie. It's brought the youth out in all of them. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. You don't get to do both of those things. You can't have it be this harrowing experience that makes the characters reevaluate things, but also make it this, oh, what a fun adventure. You don't get to have both. The laughter maybe should have come after the car, because that was probably a fun little adventure. They should have died, but they didn't, and at no point did they necessarily feel like they were going to die. They fell straight into the laundry. They all knew straight away they were heading down the laundry chute and they'd probably be okay. So that's maybe a more appropriate moment to have they're all laughing and like high-fiving and, oh, isn't this fun, before the cockroach thing. Because
it would have worked much better though.
Because it's just so out of place, and it's horrendously positioned. I was wondering, actually, because I didn't explain this, the benefit of doing a vomit draft, by the way, is that if you have to cut whole scenes and rearrange it, because once you've put it all out, you realise the structure is broken, you're not throwing away scenes that you've spent hours perfecting and tweaking and getting the exact wording right. You only polish the scenes that you're ending up actually keeping. I should have explained that, and I didn't make that make sense. So yeah, it feels like they put the vomit pass out as the movie here, because everyone says exactly what they mean. It's very, very blatant, and that really interrupts the flow. The other moment that is a similar problem, in my opinion, where it just feels like it's a scene from another movie, or the person who wrote it hadn't read the rest of the script. They were just maybe told what the vague premise of the script was. The moment at the end where the kids debate bringing the parents back.
Oh, it was weird. That was such a weird moment.
I say we give them a second chance. What does that mean?
Yeah, especially when it was so clever to get the kids reached to a point where, at the party, they needed their parents, and they were asking for them. I wish Dad was here, or I wish Mum and Dad were here, is literally a line of dialogue from the film. Mm-hmm. And when that scene started happening, so basically they're about to grow them again, but obviously the kids are in charge of the shrink machine. So they have this really bizarre, we could keep them in a hamster wheel, and the parents are like, I don't know where this is going. And I'm watching this going, God, this is awkward, but in a minute they're going to do the pointing at them, laugh and press the button thing, because that's
exactly what I thought was going to happen too.
That's the only place this scene goes, and then it doesn't go there. They just genuinely decide to grow them again.
They play it like it's so legit
weird.
Tension.
So weird.
Mate, ridiculous. Like, you can't have a moment where the kids wobble on returning them to because it just undoes anything they've learned in the movie.
Yeah, and then they have a scene where they all hug and show what they've learned.
Yeah. Straight after that. And I think really the idea weird. Is that the parents can't quite hear them. That's why they're going, what's happening? Like, they're looking at their faces, because I think if they'd heard them, the next thing wouldn't be hugs and we're all friends again. It would be, you kids are in so much fucking trouble for even thinking about keeping us in a hamster wheel. Yeah.
But no, but under the logic of the franchise, they should be able to hear them. It should be fucking amplified.
Well, yeah, exactly. That too. But they play it like they can't. So yeah, those are my two biggest qualms with the film. I think both those moments just feel like they were written from something else. They just don't work. I would have cut both of those easily. You take those two scenes out, and the film flows relatively nicely. Everything makes sense. The character motivations all make sense. They all go on an arc. Yes, on the nose, 100%. Some terrible special effects, 100%. But in terms of my overall opinions, that's kind of where I'm at.
My big issue, the thing I took issue with was it was the way that resolution scene between the adults happened. Because actually, I think more than the first film, the logic being that Wayne is so useless at running a company, his work has swamped him and he's neglecting Diane, is actually a really good idea.
Yes.
But the way at the beginning she's like, I'm having marital problems, and just like saying information. It's quite a nice moment when they say goodbye and they don't really kiss and hug. That's showing, not telling.
But that is exactly seeps into my vomit draft analogy. That's exactly how my scripts are first draft.
Yeah, because again, the resolution scene, lovely notion that Wayne would realise what he'd done wrong after seeing Diane in mortal danger with the cockroaches. But to have him literally go, I've realised what I've done wrong when I saw you in mortal danger with the cockroaches. And she's like, you do love me. It's amazing to hear you say that. And it's just this hammy, awful, like you say, almost punched on the page to show what it's meant to say dialogue. That was my big, gripe. Yeah. But like you say, there's some stuff to love, and we just to try and go through step by step. Again, do you agree that although the random montage of other inventions they're working on was a bit stupid because none of those came back and proved relevant? So a machine that can hear the dog and the liquid that glows in the body. Do you agree that the notion of him being a president is quite nice?
That's perfect. It's exactly what they should have done with this sequel. It's again all the ideas that are at the base of this, at the core of this, are exactly what you needed to do with the third movie.
Yeah,
you going back to being Shrunk. Yeah. That's fine. Great, on board. We've had a movie away from that. Let's go back to the core premise. Mix it up though. Do something different. The parents shrink themselves. Great. How do we make that interesting? Well, we tie it into they're gone, so the kids have a party. The kids think the parents aren't watching, but they are. It's kind of like reverse Home Alone. They actually can see what the kids are doing when they're alone. And that's
which is a great notion.
All those ideas, brilliant. Whoever sat down and wrote all that on a whiteboard, yes, 10 points. You get fed this week. That's how it works, right? In Hollywood, you come up with a good idea, they feed you.
You come up with a good idea in 1996, and they feed you in 2019. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And so for those thinking I've got my honey,
only once some random British guy says so.
For those thinking I've got my Honey, We Shrunk facts wrong, the movie came out in March 97, which means it was probably being written and built and filmed, in 1996.
There you go.
So that was an incredibly accurate joke.
Excellent. So I think a lot of the core ideas are really good, and I think you're right. It's just down to the execution's hammy. And look, I am getting the impression budget at all angles here.
Oh yeah, because you're right. The CGI is awful.
Yeah, and the compositing. I thought the compositing had some dodgy moments in Blew Up, but fuck me, every scene with them being small. It's like, well, they're in front of the green screen. In front of the green screen, there is no practical object around them. That's kind of, in a weird way, the genius of the first one, putting them in the grass.
Yeah.
Because you put them in the grass, you can have practical objects for them to step over, walk around, really puts them in the world. Even if you're then enhancing that with stuff that's in the further distance as CGI or compositing or whatever, having physical things for them to walk around, not just one object or two objects, that really does, that grounds it really well.
Well, some close-ups were practical, weren't they? The washing, the close-ups when they're first shrunk with the
a couple of them, yeah. Well, yeah, one or two, but a lot of them, when they're on the windowsill, it's just them at a green screen. There's nothing around them. Yeah. When they're on the floor and in the middle of the room and they first get shrunk, just nothing around them. That's I tell you one thing I did actually really like that I thought they did, which was really clever, was, and this is from later in the movie, but when they find the two mums at the end of the movie, and they're lying on the brochure for the retreat they were gonna go on.
Yeah,
but they're lying
funny.
specifically on the image of the two loungers, so it looks like they're lounging in the sun. That's really good.
It's a really good joke.
It's a great joke. It's a good visual. It actually looks good for some reason. I don't know why that looks better than half the other shit in the movie, but I think that was really fun. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's all about the execution here, and the execution is wobbly as shit, but all the core ideas are good, which makes it enjoyable enough, because if you're willing to get past the execution, there's a fun enough movie to be had here. Another criticism though is the lack of an animated fucking intro. I'm sorry. I paid my price for admission.
It was
Where
weird.
the fuck is my animated intro? The TV show's got a fucking animated intro, for Christ's sake. Where's my animated intro? I demand Disney go back and re-release this movie with an animated intro. When it cut straight to the logo, I was appalled. I was like, what? How dare you?
It was bizarre.
So strange.
What did you? We kind of discussed. We discussed a lot of it actually, but I didn't mind. I thought the logic of him leaving a voicemail that then the kids would play and interpret as them leaving them. I thought that was fine.
That one's fine, but you know what it is? It's a culmination of coincidences. One coincidence is a coincidence. Two coincidences is suspicious. Three is divine intervention. You start going, wait a minute. And the amount of things that have to line up exactly for the kids to think they've been left alone is insane.
But even the car brakes was set up earlier in the movie.
Yeah, but setting it up doesn't make it any less like the hand of God. Because when they set up that she's worried about the car brakes failing, they make a joke about that's very unlikely. Because the joke is she's worrying about something that's not likely to happen. So
which
then
is
when
weird
it
because
does, it's like, well, wait a minute.
And that's a character trait that's dropped halfway through, really. And you can argue, well, it's the adventure, it's made her more brave, but it really does go to go from her insisting they wear rubber bands in the Hot Wheels car. Yes. Rubber bands, by the way, which then disappear when the car falls and they land.
And also rubber bands that aren't attached to anything, so they're not keeping you in the car, lady.
Well, I think they were compressing them all in a bit more.
Oh, is that so? They weren't going to bounce around in the seats. So they weren't there to act like seatbelts. They were there to act as like cushions.
Yeah, they were there to kind of act as, you know, when you get an Easter egg and it's wrapped in cardboard to keep it from shaking in the box.
Yeah, fair enough.
They were there to act like that, I think. So just jumping in a fucking bubble, no worries.
But you know, the other thing about the car is, and it's a great joke, but because of all the other coincidences, it's insane. The car rolls out of the driveway across the street and then perfectly parks itself in the street across the way.
As the kids reappear.
And like, if all the other coincidences around that if that was the only one, that's a brilliant joke. Because it's so absurd that it's funny. But by that point, because everything else has gone as wrong as it has to have led us to this point, yeah. I'm like, it's maybe one too many, which is such a shame because it's so ridiculous that it goes right round the spectrum of insane to funny. I do think it is funny, and they, you know, they shot that practically, and I think that looks really great. The car genuinely just seems to roll automatically back into the opposite driveway, and I think that is quite funny. But again, it's so positioned poorly with all the other coincidences that lead to this situation. I'm just like, maybe not.
That's fair. What do you think of the reason he gets to shrink Ray out in the first place?
The Tiki Man?
Fine. Yeah, I don't like it when the Tiki Man's massive at the end, but
yeah, we'll come to that. But I think it's okay. I like that the Tiki Man represents some weird thing that he's upset that he's tried to treat himself for once. You know, he's earning money now. They're kind of doing all right because he's got his own company. It's a weird choice, the Tiki Man, and also the weird choice to choose a thing that you couldn't create a convincing prop of. It looks like it came out of a Happy Meal and then he enlarged it, rather than it being a legit piece of old, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look it looks bad. Yeah. It looks like it was painted by a child. Oh no, actually, that might be the joke though, because didn't they say he gets it from a mini golf course?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Oh, so maybe that's intentional. You know what? I take that criticism back now because it's not supposed to be a legit old tiki man, is it? It's supposed to be he got it from a mini golf course. All right, fair enough. In that case, it's pitched perfectly. It's a weird choice. The item itself. But again, the core idea I'm fine with. The idea that he's got this big clunky object, he's tried to treat himself, Diane doesn't like it, and he decides that the way he's going to sort it out is by going against the FDA regulations and using his shrinking ray. Which, by the way, at what point do you go, every time we try to use this, something bad happens?
Oh, that was bad as well. I think it's powering up. No, there's no one to press the button. And then there's just, that's one thing they don't set up. They don't set up the balls or anything.
That's what I'm saying. It's just so many coincidences that, again, by the time you get to the car, you're just like coincidenced out. You're just like, God is making this happen. God exists in this world, and he's decided to fuck with the Zelinskys today. Because that's the only way this all works out. Because, for those who don't remember, the machine in this one, it's even more ridiculous how it's set off. It's like a fucking Rube Goldberg. What was it? They call those a Rube Goldberg machine. Like it's like one thing knocks another thing, which knocks a book, which rolls a ball, which slides down a thing that falls over to a thing, and then the ball rolls down the other thing, and then it comes down and hits the ray and turns it on. Like insane. And then what sets it off for the two ladies when they come in?
Another ball.
A second ball. Brilliant. The hand of God, ladies and gentlemen. God is real. Yeah, this movie proves it.
That's even more ridiculous. Then we get to the they go down a fishing rod again.
I like the joke about that though, when like Wayne is overthinking it, and like that's a good joke because for those who don't remember, Wayne is sort of going, oh, we could try and do this and hook this up to this, and maybe we could get down. They're all like, oh, we could use a fishing line, and they're all just like, obviously they've already spotted the spool of fishing line, and they're already like working out how they could go down on it while Wayne is off in his own head. That's a nice moment, I think.
Yeah, that is a nice moment. Then there's another bizarre turn. So in the middle of making a volcano pop chili to go over a load of hot dog men, which, by the way, can I just say, that's another weird character choice I had. Adam's plot is that he's not into science and really wants to play sport. Yet they have him come up with the solution to the bananas at the end in the potassium, because bananas have potassium and he knows that.
And he learned that from his dad.
Which he learned from his dad and took in and remembered. And they have him construct this chili volcano, which is a really clever scientific concept.
Yes.
He's not playing baseball. He's not playing basketball.
Yeah. At no point do we see him do that. When he went upstairs later in the movie and he goes into his drawer, which we'll talk about that in a minute because there's a joke there that I'm just like, what?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was building to. Yeah.
But when he went in that drawer, though, I was genuinely like, oh, he's going to pull out a baseball glove and they're going to go out and play baseball.
I thought a baseball card, like he'd spent a lot of his pocket money on a baseball card. His dad.
Yeah, I mean, but the baseball cards feels a little similar to the baseball magazine.
Well, yeah, but I suppose you would still go down the weird porn route, which I'm assuming is what you're getting to.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll let you go because I think you were building to it, so yeah, I'll let you carry on. But that is, joke is weird.
They end up in the room, and I think this is after the Hot Wheels, which we'll go loop back round to loop. But yeah, they basically have him pull it out the drawer, and Mitch and Adam are both looking at it. And it's really set up like they're looking at porn. And then it's chucked on the ground.
Wayne apologizes.
Wayne
to
and
the
Diane Diane, because that's quite funny as well. Diane apologizes and then nudges Wayne, who also then apologizes.
Oh, that's good. I didn't notice that. That's funny.
Yeah. And then Wayne's like, I got to see what we're dealing with here. I'm like, Jesus, what does that even like? Do you think it's like weird porn? Like, this is so weird. And it's actually a Sports Illustrated magazine,
which he reacts to as if he's found porn.
And that, I think, is meant to be the joke. But fundamentally, you're talking about children looking at porn. Like, what? I know it's 97, but really?
Yeah, it's a bit much.
The Hot Wheels thing. So I read something online that said that one of the criticisms of this film was the obvious product placement.
Yes.
And I don't know
of which there is several. I think there's more than one.
There are several, but I don't think it's as bad as that comment makes out. the Hot Wheels was slightly egregious because they're like, oh wow, look at the details, look how good this Hot Wheel car is, and they make Hot Wheels look like the most fun roller coaster you've ever been on. But it is also like a legitimate plot device and a cool looking thing. I wasn't that bothered about
honestly,
it. It's not Krispy Kreme in Power Rangers.
Look, it's honestly one of the best set pieces of the movie. So
Yeah,
they have to get from but when they go down on the fishing line, they end up in Adam's room. They want to get down the stairs, and they are pretty sure that they're on this like windowsill where his Hot Wheels track starts. They're sort of saying Adam's Hot Wheels always go out into the hallway. It gets us as far as the hallway, then we've got to work out the stairs. That's another problem for another time, but for now, let's get ourselves to the hallway at least. Thumbs up, that makes sense. But I mean, Wayne looks at it and goes, this should work. And there's like loop-de-loops in it and all this stuff, and I'm like, you guys are gonna die. You guys are so gonna die. Like, there's no way that you could just look at that and know that's safe. And then they get in their car, they get in one of the toy cars, they sort of wiggle it down the ramp, and then suddenly they're on the Hot Wheels track. And the cool thing about it was I'd forgotten that you can get those things for Hot Wheels that like push the car faster. You know, the like little motorized bit that flings the car further. I remembered it once I watched this, but part of me went, oh, that is cool, isn't it? That's a cool little gadget. So it adds a bit of like fun to the scene because you think they're going to slow down, but then this thing propels them even faster. And it's like looping
and they
one
end up
way
doing
and
like
more
loop-de-loops than they realised and stuff.
Yeah, and it's a longer track than they thought. And then at the end, there's like a jump which they don't make, which I thought my assumption was going to be that they would, and I was like, that's not going to work. But then when it didn't, I was quite happy because I was like, that's realistic. And then we have the less realistic falling down the laundry chute scene we've already discussed, where they would have definitely died. And what's funny about that scene is when they land, it does genuinely fade to black. Which is why I make that joke about it being the end.
Oh, yeah.
Because you hear the thud, and it fades to black. It's really funny, because I was just like, yeah, they did. So then they end up getting brought back upstairs. But I think the product placement there is fine. It's like, what else would you have called it?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely... I genuinely don't think there's... Personally, I don't think there's any particularly egregious product placement
The Sony stuff's pretty... It's quite
large.
It's
a logo on the... Yeah, but it's a logo on the speaker. I suppose they've written it so that the speaker's...
You know what it is? It's the way they frame the shot, though. It's Wayne on one side, Gordon on the other, and the Sony logo, massive, perfectly positioned between the two of them. It's not like it's in the background. It feels like they framed the shot around it. It's
some impressive bass as well.
Yes, it's true.
Oh, can I just say, there's a kid in this movie. I think he's only got like one line, but it's like one of the strangest lines of dialogue a kid has ever had to say. Where the kid is looking through the CDs and he says something like, some pretty good CDs. It's honestly, like, I'll find the, just for you later, I'll find the timing and point you in the direction of it. It's amazing. Adam picks up the laundry after his weird massacring lava volcano chili thing.
And they end up back upstairs,
which is weird as well, because he packs the chili in a bag. So at one point, was he planning on doing that at school? Like, he packs the chili in the bag, and then they get in the car, and it's bizarre.
Yeah, I don't really know either.
I don't really know. It's seemingly he took the chili to school only to return with it at a later date.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So with the bubble thing we've talked about, one of the friends brings a bubble machine, which they hop in,
and they're not. No, he doesn't mean hop in the machine. He means hop in the bubbles.
Yeah, you want to talk about coincidence? The fact that they were able to achieve that is nuts. The fact that they didn't go one at a time.
Why? Yeah, why would you risk the weight of that? Like, yeah. And why would you risk that? When that pops, you're going to die if you're not on the ground when that pops. And you're not going to be able to control when that pops. That is immediate.
And that the bubble Wade and Gordon are in lasts longer than any bubble I've ever seen.
Yeah. And then when it does pop, it pops up very, very high. They fall a great, great distance and are saved by bloody, like, onion chips.
Which again, Adam happens to land at the right time. Although... there's a gag earlier than that scene where Adam and Mitch are being made to be waiters, and Adam does a really fancy twirl on his rollerblades to impress Mila Kunis, who's arrived with the other girls at the party. And he does the fancy twirl and holds out his hand, and in doing the big, nice rollerblading gesture, he has knocked over every glass.
That's a good joke. That's fun. I like that.
It's a good joke, yeah. So Diane and Patty set about trying to find medication for Mitch, who's beginning to faint and pass out due to his potassium deficiency because he's not taking his medication. And
we've skipped quite a bit here. We've
skipped the cockroaches, haven't we?
No, we've done we've sort of tackled the cockroach, but no, I'm talking about the kids. This is when the boys show up. The boys show up long before potassium deficiency is an issue, surely.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. The cockroach thing, I just want to add, it's proper grim. And also, why do they save a spider at the end when they're willing to let ants die in this franchise and a cockroach? I mean, they leave that cockroach for death. Yes, it's trying to attack Diane, but still, it's fucking weird. I really didn't like that scene. That made me grimace more than any other scene in this franchise thus far.
Does that not make it effective, though? Is it what kind of a grimace? Like it's cheesy and bad grimace, or like oh, that's gross grimace?
Just like oh, that's gross.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it was going for, though.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be honest, I need you to talk about the boys then at a little bit of length, because my first has got the most of me, Dan, and I legitimately need to go and get a glass of water. So... talk about the boys, my friend.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about the boys. So one of the plots in the film, which I think does genuinely lead to something kind of brilliant, but the premise is, earlier in the movie, the girl whose name I've forgotten, the character, I know who she's played by, I can't remember the name of the character, it's going to come to me. Jenny has a crush on this boy who, it turns out, by the way, she just likes dickheads because he's a dickhead. In the nicest possible terms, and she calls him as part of a truth or dare game earlier in the night and says that she thinks he's cute and then hangs up. She also mentions that she's just having a party and conveniently lets it slip where again, coincidence after coincidence. So then the boys decide to come over. So there are these three boys show up to this party, and they're bigger than the other two boys that are from the they're bigger than Adam and Mitch. Yeah, Mitch. And they basically bully those boys out, pull them out of their seats, and start hanging out with the girls instead. And that's kind of and they're just douchebags. They start breaking stuff and they're just being dickheads. And then there's this fantastic scene, and it's genuinely one of the best scenes in the entire movie, where the biggest dickhead of all the dickheads, I think the character's called Vincent, maybe. I can't remember.
It's Ricky, isn't it?
Ricky, then. Yeah, one of them. Ricky, Vincent. I don't know if you guys can hear, but I think it's Ricky, Vincent, and Trey, according to the credits.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm back. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's Ricky, I think. Takes Jenny into the kitchen, and he basically kisses her without getting her permission. He just sort of leans straight in and goes for it. And she is some of the girls might like that, but I'm not them. You should ask. And there's this whole consent thing that happens, and it happens in front of her mum, who expresses real pride and trust in. And I think for me, when you talked earlier, Chris, about the mum having a weird turn in this story, but not really having a moment where that changed, for me, her moment of learning to trust her kids comes here when she sees her daughter.
But the bubble bit comes before that, which is more my point. She goes from scared of the car, but not scared of the bubble.
Yes, okay, that's fair. Yeah, absolutely right. And I think this moment is really a great moment for her character, as in Jenny, and also for Patty, because I just think that's a really cool moment of I don't know, it just really lands for me there, because I'm just kind of.
It's potentially the best scene in the movie,
and it's genuine, and you can just watch this scene on YouTube. But that's also been posted a couple of times on YouTube. If you don't want to sit through the whole film, totally understand. But the speech she gives, it's a bit clunkily written, like everything else in the movie. But because of what she's saying has so much truth to it, it still works.
It's also delivered beautifully. It's one of the best pieces of acting in this franchise, because. Yes. It is slightly corny. Well, I'm not that kind of girl, but it's not delivered. I've seen scenes like that, which have the best intentions in the world, and they really are the best intentions. But the delivery can be a bit be a bit off. But this is acted so subtly, and just really acted beautifully.
Should we get the elephant in the room out of the way very quickly here? We are aware that Jenny is played by Alison Mack. We are aware she's pled guilty to all those horrendous crimes. We're aware.
Oh, I didn't know any of that. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Doesn't take away the fact that she was great in this, and she was great in Smallville. Terrible person, sex trafficking, XYZ.
Oh, it's that person?
Yes.
Shit.
Yes.
That's a shame. But in this moment, though, it is,
She's a really good actress. She went down a dark path. Not getting into it, elephant in the room, but just wanting to make sure that people don't think we don't know.
I didn't, but
okay,
shit.
but we're not.
Oh no, you're right to acknowledge it. Yeah.
Intentional head burying in sand here. I'm just going to say that we are aware. It's horrendous. She's pled guilty to a certain number of crimes. I think there's still trials going on. I'm not getting into it, but in the context of this film, she is exceptionally good. She's probably one of the better actors in the film, I would say.
Yeah, that scene truly is fantastic.
It's great.
Yeah.
And even though it's clunky like the rest of the film is, I think this is the one scene where that level of direct talk is exactly what makes it work, because it's the one scene that requires the character to say exactly what they feel. Because if she'd have done it, if this is a moment where if it's show don't tell, then it ruins the scene. She has to exactly, clearly, and vocally communicate exactly what was wrong with what he just did. So this is where the script's previous weaknesses become its strengths, because she very directly says to him that is not acceptable, and calls him out on the consent issue. And again, for 1997, I cannot believe how ahead of its time this film was.
Yeah, and it's a shame in a way that it didn't. It wasn't more successful for that scene alone, really, and the message of that scene alone. Yeah. What I don't like, as I referenced earlier, and what slightly contrasts that, is it's ultimately the parents that kicked him out, and
Correct.
It's what's not
I've got
nice
that in my notes too.
What's not nice is that actually when the whole idea of the party itself is done really well, because the parents' fear is it's like, oh, wild crazy party. Actually, it's a fun sleepover. They've involved the two dorky younger sibling boys that you'd potentially, the obvious plot is to not have them around, but they do this lovely scene where the dads watch them interact with the girls, and Adam's really cool and funny, and Mitch is quite,
forgot about this scene.
Or Adam's really brave, but Mitch is really funny. Like, they both compliment their sons, and it's a real look at our boys, and the boys are interacting with the girls. There's little touches like it's meant to be adult, like there's a spread, but it's all childlike snacks or younger teen snacks. And even the girl herself goes, Jenny is like, oh, you can bring out the champagne, ginger beer. Like, it's not this, whatever it is in the parents' heads, it's not that in reality. Mm-hmm. And it's slightly undone by the fact that the boys start acting like dicks, and all the other girls, apart from Jenny, are laughing and are on their side. And when they get kicked out, they all get kicked out, not just the dickhead boys.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
That lessens it for me slightly.
Massively. No, I had the same issue.
Fucking hell, we are over-analysing this film.
That really bothered me as well. Both points you made there, in fact, all 3 points you made there really bother me. That it's the... I found it so strange that they... one second, Nadia has arrived. Hello, Nadia. You may shut the door, so you don't have to hear me analysing a movie you have not seen. She's slowly
why didn't you make Nadia watch it?
I know, I didn't make Nadia watch this one. She's making a face. She didn't want to watch it. So this is Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. What was your opinion on the trailer for that? She's sticking her tongue out and looking at me like she wants to vomit.
Tell everyone what Home Alone movie you think is acceptable.
Okay, yeah, she's pulled me up there. I quite like the Home Alone movie I think is it the third
Home
one?
Alone 3, the one with the toy car and the robbers.
Correct.
It's brilliant. It's a great movie.
I have really good fond memories of that film, and Nadia thinks it's a piece of shit. So when I told her that I quite have fondish memories of Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, her reaction to me was the same. Like, as you know, basically to her, those two movies are equated. Because they're both movies made without the main core cast of the original. You know, after that franchise was long irrelevant, and also, straight to DVD. So,
well, the thing is, Dan, they made 5 Home Alone movies, 5 days in the week. Coming this December, nothing but Static Alone.
No, don't do that
Boom.
to me. No, why would you do that to me? Because I've never seen. I don't think
Home
I've ever
Alone.
seen the later Home Alones after that one. I think I've seen up to that.
No,
kid.
neither have I. That's the fun of it. Tuesday, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Wednesday, Home Alone 3. Thursday, Home Alone 4. And then Friday, Home Alone 5, The Holiday Heist. It even finishes with a Christmas special, Dan. Ugh.
Great. The thing is, you
Cannot
making
wait.
that joke means we've now got to do it because 2 people will ask us for it. That's the requirement. 2 people now have to ask us to do that for us to do it.
Okay, fair enough.
There you go. Cool. What was I saying?
Can I be one of those 2?
No. Two
okay.
people have
Right.
to tweet or get us on the Discord about it. Here's the thing.
Nobody was asking for it. No, sorry. Nadia didn't watch it with you, but you were saying about. I think you're in agreement with me about like the party looking like good, but
yeah. So the problem we have is that again, it's a cake and eat it too situation, because you want the parents to sort of feel like they've broken up this party, but like at the end of the day, I think it would have been more important if Adam and Mitch had stood up to Ricky, Vincent, and Trey and said, you know
Adam
what?
tried.
Leave. Adam tried. Didn't work. Took a parent to get them out. And while that
And
that
he stands
joke
up for his
is kind
dad in the process, which is nice.
yeah, which I think is really important. But I think the way you end that really is by having, because Adam stood up to them, they're just like, God, this party's lame. This kid's like making, he's boring us. Like he's made this party shit, so we're just gonna go. Like that, I think is better. Although I don't mind the joke of this is God. That's funny enough. It's okay for a kids movie. That gets a pass, But I just, the fact that the parents solve the problem, I think is, if the premise of the movie is we didn't trust our kids, but it turns out they actually were all right. That kind of spoils it. And then I agree with you on your secondary point, which is that it's a shame that all the kids leave at the same time, because I think that the 3 girls were obviously nowhere near causing the problem. But I also understand that from the script's perspective, getting them out of the way is probably the way to go.
Yeah, but I don't. Although they weren't causing the problem, I don't like that they had to make them agree with the boys to.
Yeah, and that's the other issue.
That.
I think it would have been a lot more powerful if once the boys were getting really out of hand and breaking stuff like the bookshelf and whatever, that if the girls had stopped laughing at their jokes, like when Adam stands up to them,
completely,
them laughing at the bullies jibes at Wayne.
Yeah, it's awful.
That really makes them seem like bad people, and it makes you just go,
bad friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you have the way to do it would have been to have a growing montage of the kids getting more violent. Rick Moranis struggling to save the day. More violent, he's struggling. More violence, he's struggling. Adam stands up for them. The kids are like, what? They look like they're going to get even more violent. Wayne's struggling. And then Adam wins. And the kids are like, that's ridiculous. As Wayne fixes the thing, and as Wayne plugs it in, Gordon yells, go on, Adam! And that's what's broadcast. So the boys are walking away. Gordon yells something in support of Adam. The boys pause and are like, who's that? And he's like, it's God. You have it play out the same, but Adam was getting the boys away.
Really
anyway.
violent, but wouldn't it have been tied in a bit better if Adam had just come downstairs with his baseball bat? Or is that a bad message to send to the kids in a Disney movie? You're getting bullied? Bring your baseball bat. That'll sort it out. That's the wrong message, isn't it?
This is of course after the potassium thing. So I haven't had your view. Give your view on the potassium stuff.
I think it's good because I think it gives the mum Paddy a reason to be so panicky about everything. If she's genuinely got kids that are like he's sick, legitimately. He's not. He does need his pills. He does need more care than an average child. So it makes her seem less irrational, I think, which I think is good because it's a really fine balance. When you've got a character that's acting irrationally, you go too far, they become unbelievable, and you don't go far enough, then there's no plot. There's no arc for them. So I think the bigger benefit of that, while it is good at the end to see Adam using a bit of his smarts to sort of say, look, I'm a little bit of both. Maybe I'm not as clever as you, but I'm not an idiot. I do take what you're saying on board, but also I kind of like sports, so maybe acknowledge that part of my life. I don't mind that at all. I know you had a bit of a grievance with Adam just like being sort of, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but I kind of think you can't grow up in that household without being a bit
that makes sense.
To me, from my perspective. I think that's the idea, is that the character is a bit nuanced. I think what you get more out of giving him a legit medical issue is that it makes Paddy seem less like a crazy person.
Yeah, but it also adds some drama when he's fainting.
Exactly. And I think that's and that happens. Does that happens before the bullies? Then is that am I?
Yeah,
is that the right way around? Okay. Yeah, so he passes out, and then Adam remembers to give him banana. I think that's fine. I think that works for everyone, that scene. I think that's sort of like...
Yeah, I think it's really nice.
And it also shows the kids are capable of looking after each other seriously, because it's, Adam...
It all ties in together beautifully.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the themes do come together nicely. Again, a lot of the core ideas, very well designed. So, we've talked about Death by Dip, we've talked about the douche bros, we've talked about the consent debate. Back upstairs. Should we talk about the ending then?
We've talked about the weirdness. Do you mean the very end where Wayne has
not the
grown
several months later. No. The actual. So when he's talking on the speaker, the party ends, and then we get the kids realizing the parents are shrunk. They find them. We've already kind of talked about it actually, because it was one of my gripes, wasn't it? Was that weird moment of, should we get them back to bed?
Yeah, we talked about that. The actual moment, there's quite a good gag when she goes, she's like, we didn't invite those boys, and there's this nice moment where he's like, we know, we saw everything. And she's like, you weren't in the kitchen, were you? And he's like, no, but your mother was. Like, that was quite a nice moment.
Yeah.
I've thought of another slight character weirdness. Diane and Patty are determined to leave. Diane especially is fed up of Wayne. She wants to get out. She wants to go on this holiday.
Yeah.
They say, shit, the bed. Sorry, Jess just opened the door and I shat myself. Woo!
Sorry, I thought you heard me.
Sorry, nope, definitely didn't know you were there until I looked round and you were there picking up the bin.
That noise,
Woo!
Chris. Woo! Like, what is that?
That is pure adrenaline, Dan. My heart rate is not registering. That's bad. Woo! Anyway, hiya. No worries. Jesus. So they're determined to go away.
What Chris doesn't know is I hooked up a heart rate monitor and it is 176 right now, which apparently, according to this, is a heart attack.
Well, it's don't make jokes like that. Jesus, it's I felt faint after a run and had to get the water. No, it's 67 my heart rate according to my Fitbit.
Is that right? That's quite low.
Yeah. That's all right, yeah. I think, because obviously I've Googled it, but I think they said nobody take genuine medical advice from this. But I think resting, it should be between 60 and 120 or something, I think.
Yeah, but my resting heart rate is, there you go, 81.
There you go. I don't know.
I mean, it's within the safe range, but like...
we're both in the safe range, so that's good.
There you go. Interesting. There you go. Mine used
to
be
my
I think my health has slipped, Chris. Athletes have it down as low as 40.
I know, that's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mine's weird because my resting is quite low, but equally it doesn't take much physical exhaustion for it to then.
What do you get up to when you're exercising?
I've never been dangerous, as far as I'm aware. Although I got my best 4K time before we did this, so maybe when I look, that will be in the peak. But
what is it normally around when you're exercising?
I don't know. I'd have to look, but I know because isn't danger 220 minus your age?
Is that right?
So I've never. Yeah, I think so. Like, that's when there's worry. I think, like, 180 is the most, maybe. I don't know, but that's probably not
220
150,
So for
maybe.
me,
I don't know.
190 would be my like danger zone, right?
Yeah, I
220
believe
minus
so,
my
yeah.
age. So I've
think
had it.
so,
I've
yeah.
had it as high as 177.
Yeah, so pretty close.
Yeah.
Hold on, well, let me look. Hold on, I'll look now, Dan. You talk about,
Something.
what was I going to ask? Oh, yeah. I'll finish that point, and then I'll look at what it was on that run. So desperate to get away, they go in the house, return the vitamins, fine, and then she's like, "Ooh, they're upstairs. Let's sneak up and find out what they do when we've left." Like, hold on, I thought you wanted to get away desperately.
Oh, right at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. Yeah, but again, because they've got to get them upstairs in front of that machine. Any excuse, right? Like, that's the other benefit, I suppose, of the whole potassium thing, is that they give it's a good reason for them to go back, which is more than they had previously. I mean,
Yeah, it does work well.
oh, but that, I mean, again though, the beginning is like, again, that is the hand of God for sure. There's no way all that stuff happens without somebody like pushing it that way. Well, a scriptwriter is God in this example. In terms of the other bits, though, I think do we talk about the Tiki Man joke? Oh, they have a moment where basically everyone says what they've learned and hugs the person they wronged one by one. It's kind of weird. It's like they went, right, we need to. These are all the character arcs we've got. Everyone's back to normal now. So this person has to say this to this person to complete that character arc. Then they hug. This person has to say that to complete that character arc. Then they hug. And then Wayne has to make his brother the president because reasons, and then they hug. Cool.
No, they do set that. Admittedly, they set it up at the beginning, and
there's nothing wrong with the. Yeah. It's the tick box order of them all having the conversation they needed to have immediately following the events of the movie. It's like none of the actual individual moments are wrong. They are what the characters needed to say or do, but it's this weird like checklist. It's like the movie goes, oh shit, we should end. Okay, he's fine with him now. She's happy with that now. That's gone. That's sorted. And there's that. Perfect. Tick. Everyone go home and have a nice trip. Like it's this really weird thing where it's just like they just one by one all like air their grievance, resolve their grievance, hug, and the movie ends. Well, it doesn't. There's like a little extra, like 2 months later or whatever type scene, which we've alluded to enough. We should probably talk about now. Basically, Adam has successfully gone to base. Gone.
Just to say, I've looked, and it worries me slightly because you were like, "Shit, I've got up to 175. Mine was 180 on that run."
Wow,
it's still not the danger zone. So
no, you're 10 beats a second off that, right? Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, and it also, like I say, it was my fastest 4K time, Dan.
It's good.
Yeah, 28 minutes.
That's good.
I mean, it's still pretty slow, but for me, fast. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah. So I
the giant tiki weird.
Yeah. So the premise is that in the
FDA
end,
aren't going to notice that. Mm-hmm.
Well, there's that too. But there's a scene where he's talking to Diane right at the end. It's in the Wayne Diane tick box complete their character arc so we can end the movie scene. He says something like, "Oh, I'll get rid of the Tiki Man," and she's like, "It's okay. Do what you want with it," which is the setup for the joke that 2 or 3 months later, Adam's coming home from baseball camp. He's happy. He's done baseball instead of science, and They get home, the camera pans out, and there is now not just you can see the front of the house, but sticking out from the back of the house, there is now a giant 70-story whatever. It's a huge Tiki Man that would basically be a landmark, very much would be noticed, and as you pointed out, would be seen by the FDA. The idea being, she said, "Do what you want with it," and he took it to the extreme of, well, I'm not only am I going to have this thing, I'm going to make it big, which again, as Chris pointed out, would easily be noticed, and therefore would make.
I hope it's just a joke when picking up Adam. That's what I hope.
Oh, and that it's not actually permanently there. Like he's made it big for that day, and he made it small again later in that afternoon.
That's me fansplaining it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I mean, fine. Like, fine. It's a weird joke to end the movie on.
that kind of sums up the movie, doesn't it? In a way, it's a better joke than French Class, but that kind of it's fine.
Yeah. I liked the there was a joke earlier in the movie when they're talking about did Nick enjoy... I can't remember the joke now, so this is a waste of time, but there's a joke around the idea of Adam says, like, did Nick enjoy going to... No, did Amy enjoy going to science camp? And she's like, no, Amy didn't go to science camp. And he's like, oh, okay. And then she went to something very similar. She went to, like, there's a joke around that I can't quite remember.
Like Shakespeare camp or something.
That's it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like Shakespeare camp, and he's just like, oh, okay.
What did you... So speaking of that, I understand why they're not in the film. Makes sense. Shame not to have Nick in it. But there would have been kind of no place, because he would then have been an adult present. Do you think it's
that
a shame
could have been
they didn't
fun
get
though? Actually, if they'd have brought Nick back as one of the adults almost, and he could have been like,
and shrunk him as well?
Yeah, and had him be like, oh, trust me, guys, I've dealt with this before.
Numerous times. He got shrunk with a whole audience in Paris, Japan, and Florida, and somewhere else.
You got shrunk a lot. Wayne got a lot of Inventor of the Year awards. Yeah, carry on.
Do you wish the actress playing Diane had come back? Because it's hard to judge when the Diane character in particular wasn't particularly given great dialogue. She's good though.
I think just for continuity's sake, yes. But this actress was pretty good, so I don't mind. I actually, this is going to sound bad, but I think this actress makes it the annoyance at Wayne comes across sincerer here.
Yes, but I think that's partly in the script.
I think it's written sincere in the first movie, but I just think the actress they had, the original Diane actress, as good as she was, as capable as she was, it always came across a bit like, the woman disapproving of the silly boys, which is a trope I don't like. That in films where the boys are silly and fun and the women are like, you guys, and it's always the woman in the corner with her arms folded, going, stop having fun. I hate that. I really hate that. I think that's just weird stereotyping and typecasting of women as being these weird, shrill, soulless, funless things. It was a real problem in the 90s. And you're right, it's the script. They've got a little bit of but I think on paper, there's still a little bit of that in this movie as well. There's a lot of Diane disapproving. The Tiki Man's a perfect example. That's very much you boys and your stupid things. You got a stupid tiki man, and I'm fed up, and our marriage is on the rocks because you got a silly thing. Because you need to be a sensible human and not a silly person, you silly boys. But like, this actress, for some reason, gets away with that stuff better than the original actress, and I don't know why that is. So for continuity's sake, I would have liked the original actress to return, but. I've forgotten this lady's name, whatever her name is. I had it in front of me a minute ago. Eve Gordon. I think she actually somehow managed to make that dialogue seem less shrill and judgy than the original actress. So I think she pulls it off a little bit better, which is a weird thing to say. I didn't think I'd say that about a replacement cast member. But for continuity's sake, I think it would have been a lot better to get the original.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, and I think it's just because we've just done the ride as well, and I just thought she was quite good in that footage for some reason.
Yeah, she was. Look, and that is not to say the original actress was bad at all. Not at all. I just think there's a very particular thing that bothers me about this kind of writing, and this actress got away with it a bit more than the first one. That's what I'm getting at. I mean, it's not a judgment of each performance as such, but. For the way this is written, I think Eve Gordon gets away with it a bit better than the original actress.
Yeah, that's fair. So there you go. Thursday,
there's one other thing we've not talked about.
Oh yeah, go on.
The daddy long legs.
Oh yeah, they let that live.
The stand-in for the aunt in this movie, to sort of like echo that scene was the parents. The parents are shrunk now. They have to befriend a bug. What I liked about this was they set it up at the beginning of the movie and someone's like, oh no, daddy long legs are great, and then they have this really quite good joke for Diane when they see the daddy long legs when they're shrunk, and Paddy says, like, oh, they're good bugs. And she's like, what happened? Did somebody put out, like, a PSA about daddy long legs? Like, everyone seems to agree that they're good for you, or they're good to have in your house because they get rid of worse bugs. And she's like,
yeah, it's something like they get rid of the other bugs.
And which is true, 100% true. They are a more helpful bug than a hindrance. But I think that's true of spiders in general. If you've got spiders, they're probably eating much more nefarious things in your home, especially if you've got a lot of them. Silverfish particularly are fodder for spiders.
I suppose if Bubbles can carry them, then the spider can carry them. But it is a bit like, really, they managed to cool the spider back and make the spider give them a lift?
That's the stretch for me. Them freeing the spider and the spider not eating them alive makes sense to me because they've just freed him. Like any insect, or any animal, I should say. I think if you treat it well, maybe it might not see you as a threat. There's a chance of that, So, okay, fine. I'm a kid logic. I'm on board with that. The minute it goes too far is that they let it go and then call it back. Which, by the way, why? When you're writing the script, the amount of a logic leap to go from it's chosen to not kill them to it's obeying their commands to the point where it's going away, they yell, and it comes back. That's insane. Why couldn't you just write it in the script that they free it, it starts to climb, and then they realise they can hitch a ride and they jump on?
Yeah. Or it offers them a ride or some shit like that.
Fine. Even that's better. Yeah, 100%. Like, I don't understand, because it doesn't understand English. It's never... Come on. It's insane. It's really weird. It is crazy. Yeah, that's another leap in logic the movie takes. But I don't mind the scene, but and it's got, like I said, a nice enough joke for Diane at the beginning of it, and it's
and a nice moment where she kind of says, "Oh, you're having a rough day too," kind of thing.
I like that scene. But that's the one big thing we sort of didn't talk about of all the set pieces.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Shall I hit some quick couple of bits of trivia? Not many, but...
Oh, yes, shit. Sorry, yeah.
No, it's cool. Just not many at all. This was, as Chris pointed out in a previous episode, Rick Moranis' final live-action role before retiring from acting completely. This film was actually scheduled for a theatrical release during the holiday season of 1996. However, because Disney were having such success with their direct-to-video films, the animated ones, that is, the studio chose to make this film their first live-action direct-to-video movie in an attempt to recreate that success.
Shame of that, then, is it implies that the cast didn't know they were making a straight-to-video movie at the time.
I would agree, yes.
I think it absolutely feels like a straight-to-video movie on a number of levels.
Yes, I again agree, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what
shame for them.
Yeah, I don't know what the situation is there. But I guess the cast wouldn't have known that making it, because if you're shooting in front of nothing but green screen, you don't know what it all looks like.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
The film is purportedly 8 years after Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, because Adam was 2 in that movie and he's 10 in this movie. That's something I want to talk to you about, actually. Do you think the kids were too young in this movie?
No, I don't think so.
No, I wondered if you should age them up a little bit. Make them the age of Amy in the first one, because then parties and boys and all that stuff feels a little bit more relevant. These kids were like, 10, 11 and 12, and it just felt a little bit...
But I agree with you, but because I, as spoken about, love the notion of the party being one thing in the parents' head and another in reality.
You think that plays better with them being younger?
Yeah, and it only came out 3 years after after Blew Up, so you're already stretching it a bit with Adam.
More than 3 years, surely. 2007. When did Blew Up come out? 2002.
It came out in 1997, didn't it?
Sorry, 1997. But wasn't Blew Up 92?
Yeah, I suppose, but that's still only 5 years when this is set 8 years after. So if you age him up another 4 years.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like it's even more of a stretch. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I wondered though if it had worked better if they'd have been a bit older, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you've got me there. Yeah, so Blew Up the Kid was 92, so it was a 5-year gap, but an 8-year gap in film. Okay, fair enough. At no point is the phrase "Honey, we shrunk ourselves" actually said in the movie.
Which is a shame, because he really could have said it. She faints, so he could have just said, "Yep, honey, we shrunk ourselves."
That's the other bit, actually, I kind of liked about having the kid have the potassium deficiency, because it's not really believable that the kid would faint having seen his shrunk parents, but if he's having the potassium deficiency, he sees the shrunk parents and then faints.
that was done very
It's
well.
It's a good little callback.
I will say, though, for a kid who has himself been blown up and terrorized Las Vegas, and a kid who has two older siblings who have been shrunk, Adam dismissed the fact that it could actually be the parents quite easily, as does Jenny. Like, there's literally a shrink ray in the house. You gotta entertain the notion slightly.
But I guess for him, that's all history, isn't it? That nothing has happened since he was 2, which he won't remember.
Yeah, I suppose.
So for him,
know about it,
that's all just stories he's heard about. None of that's happened to him. You know what I mean?
When Gordon confirms that Wayne shrunk them, there is a nice eye roll from the 3 kids.
Yeah. So obviously, Marcia Strassman didn't reprise her role as Diane Zelinsky. Eve Gordon took over. This was the final installment of the franchise. Oh, here we go. Yes, this one I like. You'll like this one. When Wayne and Gordon first uncover the
final installment on film, presumably. Sorry, because obviously the TV show's after it. I guess that's what they mean.
It just says the final installment of the Honey Eye franchise.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah, it's a bit vague. The opening chime can be heard from the theme tune of Back to the Future.
Oh, that's nice.
So this film's director was the director of photography on Back to the Future's Part 1, 2, and 3.
That's a nice little nod then.
And it's actually his directorial debut, this film, after having been the DOP on the Back to the Future franchise.
Oh, cool.
So there you go. And obviously, Bug Hall replaced the Shalikar brothers as Adam. They didn't get the same kid grown up back.
Yeah, which makes sense.
But interestingly, Eve Gordon, who plays Diane in this movie, and Alison Mack, who plays Jenny, they actually appeared together in a movie in 1991 called Switched at Birth.
What, where they played mother and daughter again?
Presumably, yeah. Although they're not daughter in this, because obviously Jenny is her niece in this.
Oh, Eve Gordon played Diane. Right, yep, you're right, yeah.
Yeah. There's one more here. Let me see. What's this one? This one's really long. Shall I just read it out blind and hope that it makes sense?
Yeah, go for it.
Great. So I'm reading out a thing I've never read before. I didn't see this one the first time. When Gordon is pretending to be God in order to get the kids' attention, he asks Ricky King, "How come I know you live on Sycamore?" Sycamore is the name of the street that the Zelinsky family lived on in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, possibly implying that the family still lives in the same area in this film. However, the second film in the series showed the family had moved to the suburbs of Las Vegas, Nevada. So they've either moved back or there's some other weirdness going on.
Fair enough.
There you go. So there you go. An hour and a half somehow.
There we go, kids.
On a movie that's an hour and 10 minutes.
Madness. So I think we pretty much summed up where we are with it. It's, it's got some stronger points than Blew Up. It's got some weaker points than Blew Up. It's probably still not the dizzying heights of Honey, I Shrunk. But you know what? Entertaining. I enjoyed it. Cannot wait to discuss the batshit craziness of the TV show. This franchise could honestly be called Amazing Ideas Executed Poorly. And there's a lot of that in the TV show.
I mean, wow. Wait till we get to the TV show. The TV show is insane. We won't be able to go into the same level of granular detail as we've done with these ones, but fucking hell, there's some big stuff to talk about. Jesus Christ.
It may just become us giving synopsis of episodes, but even that, for no one that knows anything about the TV show, should be entertaining.
It's insane. It's insane. If you want to get a sense of it, as we talked about last week, the first 6 episodes, the whole thing seems to be on YouTube, but if you want to watch the first handful of episodes, we've both watched those, so they'll almost all be coming up. If you're the sort of person who's been watching this along with us.
I clicked on a YouTube link the other day and it said that it'd been taken down by Disney, so I don't know if it is all still on there.
Oh, that's weird. I looked a few days ago and it was. So yeah, I'd have a gander.
Well, it could be the episode I happened to choose. So
okay, interesting. Yeah. Have a gander. See what you can find on there, listeners. But at least if you are determined to watch some of the show to get a sense of it before you listen to the podcast, me and Chris have both seen, I believe, the first 6 episodes. So they're definitely going to come up. So if you want to watch those, if you want to do some homework before you watch it. But that's tomorrow for you guys, so maybe don't, because that's a lot to watch. And they're 40 minutes an episode somehow.
What are we doing? Are we then just watching the first 6 and jumping in, because the problem with this show is I keep reading the synopsis of the next episode and it just sounds so batshit crazy. I want to watch it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know yet. We've got to figure that out. I stopped at 6. Like, I don't know what to do now. I've had an impasse, and then I had the time to potentially watch more today. And I was like, I'm not going to watch more of it before we sit down to talk about ourselves, because I watched Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves yesterday. So I'm like,
so where are we both up to? We're both up to the 70s episode then, I suppose.
We've both just seen the 70s episode, yeah. So now we've both seen an equal amount of that show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, it's weird. We'll talk about it. So yeah, come back tomorrow for that.
It's nuts, because that's enough for a podcast, but it doesn't. And it's weird how it doesn't seem right to just do that, but that's actually all we do for reviewing a TV show on the actual podcast. So
but I think what I might do is take a spread now of a few episodes from later on, because I definitely want to watch the finale. And there's a few ones that are really low rated on IMDb.
Oh, we have to watch Honey, I've Got No. Oh no, I'm midway through. I'm midway through the next one where Honey, I've Got 9 Lives, where Wayne swaps Diane and a cat's brains.
Okay, I'm watching that now. What is happening? This show is insane.
It does, mate.
I can't wait.
And yeah, there's an Irish episode called Honey, I've Got Me Lucky Charms, which
Yes.
just looks so offensive.
That's the one that's got got really low rating on IMDb. What's one of the ones that got really low rating on IMDb? So I'm definitely checking out that one too. Who knows? I'll watch what I can and we'll come back to it. But yeah, people, the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids TV series. The hype is real. Come back tomorrow, find out more. So yeah, thanks very much for listening. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll see you tomorrow for the very final Honey, I Shrunk Nothing But Static. What a treat.